My grandfather, Dr. George Marler, was the head geologist at Yellowstone Park, working there from 1931 until shortly before his death in 1978. As a geologist, he described the extensive geyser systems of Yellowstone, including the famous Old Faithful. He was a great naturalist and conservationist. All of the pictures of the park and geysers were taken by George Marler and are part of the family collection. Most of them have never been seen outside of the family before. In my description below, I list the names of the geysers, or pools, and the date the photo was taken. In this video, I will be sharing a little bit of my family history, including the history that brought my family west with the Mormon pioneers. I will also be showing historical photos taken during the pioneer days in Utah and Missouri, and will list information for these in my description as well. These historical photos have not been seen outside of the family before. The Marler family started their journey westward when they joined Joseph Smith in his new religion, the Latter-day Saints, who are better known as Mormons, in Missouri. My great-great-grandfather, George W. Marler, as a young boy, made the journey west to New Zion in Utah, and as an adult he led several wagon trains west to Utah Territory. His son, also George W. Marler, moved into the current family home in Idaho with my grandfather in the early 20th century. The house they moved into, a former stagecoach stop prior to the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, is still in the family today, and as a child and young adult I enjoyed many summers there. My grandfather went to BYU in the early 1920s, a very different experience than it is today, with a graduating class that totaled less than 20. He earned a doctorate at BYU several years later. In 1931, he became a full-time park ranger at Yellowstone Park, located just a few hours' drive from the family home, where he researched the geyser systems and geology of the park. According to Wikipedia, a geyser is a spring characterized by intermittent discharge of water ejected turbulently and accompanied by a vapor or steam phase. The formation of geysers is due to particular hydrogeological conditions, which exist in only a few places on Earth. About 1,000 known geysers exist worldwide, roughly half of which are in Yellowstone National Park. A geyser's eruptive activity may change or cease due to natural or human intervention. George Marler wrote several books and publications about the geyser systems of Yellowstone Park, which are still used today. In addition to his love of geology, my grandfather was also an avid birdwatcher and conservationist. He worked with others, including E.B. White, author of Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little, in support of the founding of the Red Rocks Wildlife Refuge, which greatly contributed to saving the endangered trumpeter swan from extinction. White's book, The Trumpet of the Swan, helped to popularize the Red Rocks Wildlife Refuge. My grandfather did speaking tours for the Audubon Society, and while on one of those tours in Massachusetts, he met my grandmother, Laura, who I'm named after. They had 2 daughters, my mother and her younger sister, and due to my grandparents' shared love of the outdoors, they spent most of their lives in Yellowstone Park. During that time, it was very unusual for anyone to stay in the park in the winter, as the park was closed, so the family was often isolated during the colder months. My mother and her sister developed a close relationship with nature and considered the park their playground. From my early childhood, I have enjoyed periodically returning to Yellowstone Park to experience anew the natural beauty and marvel at the geological phenomena that, for me, symbolizes my grandfather, Dr. George Marler.